Okay guys, so we are live here on Facebook and we're also live on YouTube. So I'm very excited to get this webinar going with you guys. Free live training, I should say. Let me actually make sure that the microphone is here. Let me just. Okay, so it looks like everything's working to me. So if you're watching, let me know if you can hear me. And let me know if everything is working okay. I moved my mic over, which I almost forgot. So the purpose of this live is going to be how to show you my system that I use to segment our email leads from our customers, cancel customers, obviously leads, and people who've abandoned the cart. Okay, so a story about why I've done this and why this is important. Obviously, and by the way, if you can hear me, guys, let me know. I see 2 people watching here. Kelly, everything's working okay. Yeah, I'm glad to hear. So the reason is like why you have to set this up, right? Is if when I first got started with email marketing, I obviously thought everything was really simple, right? You build a pop up, people join your email list, and you send an email like once a week, and loads of people sign up for your subscription box and buy your products, and everybody loves you, right? But that's not really how it works. I mean, that is how it works if you have a load of time to consistently send emails to people. But really what you want to do is you want to build a system to actually automate the selling process. But in order to do that and build out automations that actually are going to sell to people, and the best thing about automations is they're going to actually sell to people in the right order, which means like when someone joins the email list, they get an email after a day, and then another one, and you can automate that whole process. Okay, but in order to do all of that, you need to actually have a system to segment people. Okay, and what that means is that you can't have like one blanket list of leads or one blanket list of like your emails, because okay, what happens if someone joins your email list on your website, then they become a customer, then they cancel their subscription? Like, you can't just be sending broadcasts to your entire list. And what you also don't want to do, and this is what a story about this now. So what we used to do is we used to do exactly that. Like, people would be replying back saying, why are you emailing me? I'm already a customer, and do I get this special offer even though I'm already a customer? All these other things, right? And like, cancel my subscription, I want this special offer, but I'm already a customer, so I don't qualify. So then eventually I started to manually move people in between lists using Excel. And yeah, that works when you have about 10 subscribers, but once you have you're starting to grow your business and your box is actually accelerating in growth, then it becomes very difficult to actually segment people manually. Okay, so it's really important to segment people, because if you give people the wrong information or the wrong emails, they're going to email back and they're going to be pretty angry at you. Okay, but it's also very difficult to do it manually, because you just don't have time. So I'm going to add a little poll in here. This is the cool little option. So the question is going to be, do you segment your list? So I just added a little poll into the live there on Facebook. We're also live on YouTube. So if you haven't followed me on YouTube, guys, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll pop a link in here below. So how do we do it, right? So we've covered what segmentation is. And segmentation, if it's not clear, it's basically making sure people are in the right places and the right lists in your email list, so that you can send them the correct messages. Okay. Who's it for? It's for subscription box founders who want to actually deliver the correct sales messages to customers, as well as to prospects, as well as welcome new customers and maybe win back people who've cancelled. Okay, how do we do it? Well, I'm gonna share my screen with you. Okay, so essentially this is what I see right now. So what we need to do is we need to get clear on a couple of things, right? So the front end of your website is like the front end, right? It's where it's all got all the images, it's got all the the information, it's got the offer, it's got the buttons or whatever, and this is where a customer is going to go when they want to sign up for your box. Okay, so it's called the front end because it's the front facing, it faces out to the customers. Okay, now if you're using a platform like, for example, WooCommerce, or if you're using maybe the subly checkout feature, your front end might be on something like WordPress. Okay, whereas if you're using something like Shopify or Cratejoy, your front end is on Shopify and Cratejoy. Okay, and what I mean is the difference, like, so if you're using WordPress or WooCommerce or subly checkout, your front end could be on a platform like WordPress, but your back end, okay, and the back end is where you can see all the customers' information, their product information, their subscription. that back end is on a separate system. So that's what we have. So we have WordPress on the front end. This is all built on WordPress. But when someone clicks here, gets started, they follow through all the checkout steps. And when they get to the checkout, then they're going to be redirected to Subly. And Subly is our back end, okay? So if you're using Shopify, it's all contained in one. Same with if you're using like Subly's website builder. So just be clear on where your website, your front end of your website is hosted. And that's going to be the first thing I wanted to cover today, which is how to capture your leads and how to send them into the sales list. Okay, that's the first list we're talking about today. So if we just back up one step, okay, with a subscription box, generally you're going to want to have 4 different buckets, and the first bucket is going to be your leads. Okay, so it's people who've come to your website and they enter their information, usually their email address, and they enter their email address and they leave. Okay, so they come to the website, they might have entered their email address on the pop-up. We have it here in a form, like on the step 4. But essentially they come to your website and they drop off. Okay, so it's really important, obviously, to capture those people's email addresses so you can actually email them and send them back to your website, which will help to increase your sales, reduce your customer acquisition costs, and help to actually grow your email list at the same time. Okay, if you can get them to buy. So how do you actually do that? You want to have either a pop-up, as I said. You can have an exit intent. We've also got an exit intent on this website. On this page, it actually doesn't show up because I'm logged in. But if you go to exit this site, it will actually give you another, a pop-up will come up and say, hey, don't leave yet, enter your email address. Okay, so you want to have as many things as you can. So if you want to have a pop-up, you probably have something in the bottom of your website, like right here. And we have this form, which is really powerful because I asked them a few questions before we asked their email. But again, this is custom coded, okay? So essentially, this is all on the front end, okay? So what this is a form that's custom coded into ActiveCampaign. So our email addresses are captured here, and if they just get to their email address here and they perhaps go to here and look at the price and say, no, I'm not ready for that now, and they drop off, we can still email them, okay? So it's really important for any email marketing strategies to actually be collecting email addresses. I mean, this is obvious, guys. Just make sure you have at least one way, but probably more ways for people to join your email list on your website. Something like a form, something like a pop-up or an exit intent, and also people on the bottom of the screen here. Okay, so that's the first part of it. Now, if you're using a pop-up software, I like to use one called Wise Pops, and the reason being it's pretty intelligent. You can have your pop-ups display, like as I said, on exit, on if people click a link or if people scroll down. So let's just talk about capturing these people into the leads list. Okay, so essentially, whatever pop-up software you use, it's going to essentially ask you, where do you want me to send these emails to? Okay, and this is pretty basic stuff, guys, but it's just so it's clear for everybody. So you want to come up to your pop-up and you want to click sync. Now we use ActiveCampaign. You might use MailChimp. You might use whatever. But essentially, it asks you which list do you want to send these people to, okay? I've got list exit intent, but we've also got a list called, this is because it's an exit intent pop-up, but if they enter their email address here on the previous step, they go to a list called site leads, okay? So these are your leads. These are people who've come to your website and they haven't bought. So that's bucket number 1, okay? So site leads should be in here somewhere. It's not in alphabetical order, which is really confusing, but site leads would be in here. Oh yeah, it's up the top there. So yeah, so that's how you capture the emails. Okay, so they go into site leads, right? So let's say someone goes, they've come to your website, they've entered their email address here. Now, if they don't drop off, they're still going to go into site leads. So what happens if they come to your website and decide instantly they're going to go over and buy? They click this, they go to the checkout, and they buy the product. Okay, what happens then? Okay, so this is where you have to use a software called Zapier. And by the way, the 4 buckets again are leads, abandoned cart, which I'll cover next, okay, customers, and cancelled, okay. And the reason you want to segment these is you can have different automations that trigger when people join these different lists, okay, probably for the next video or later down the line. But essentially, and by the way, this is stuff I cover in more detail in my email marketing course for subscription boxes. And if you want to learn more about that, it's garyredmond.net/program, and I'll pop the link in here at the end, okay. But essentially what you want to do is you want to use a software called Zapier, so that when someone actually comes to your website and they enter their email address, they're already going to be sent to ActiveCampaign. But what you want to do is when they actually become a customer, you want to tell Zapier, hey Zapier, when someone becomes a customer in Subly, then move them to the customer list in ActiveCampaign. Okay, so by the way, you're going to need to go into your email software provider, MailChimp, whatever it is, and make these 4 different lists: leads, abandoned cart, cancelled, and customers. Okay, so let's make this app. It's going to ask you for the app. Click Subly. Okay, if you're using Shopify, you click Shopify. If you're using WooCommerce, you click WooCommerce. Okay, the trigger event. Okay, so this is how Zapier works. It basically works on trigger and action. Okay, so when someone subscribes to BusterBox in the UK, we've got 2 accounts because we've 2 Subly accounts. Then essentially it's going to test the trigger here, and it's going to find a recent subscription. Okay, here's someone who just signed up. Okay, so now it's going to ask me, okay, now when someone signs up, what's the action that you want me to take? Okay, so you're going to click Active Campaign, and you're going to click Create and Update a Contact. Again, if you're using MailChimp or whatever it is, you can select whatever software you're using. Okay, but essentially it asks you now to set up the action. So the list you're going to choose this time is customers. Okay, so now we've had people come to our website, they've entered their email address perhaps on a pop-up or on a sign-up form, and they become a lead. So now we're going to tell Active Campaign, if they actually sign up in Subly, then you need to move them to the list customers. Okay, and you basically fill out the information here: the email address, customer first name, last name, and any other information that's passed. Okay, then you click Continue, and essentially that's it. Okay, test and continue. So this person is going to be, a test is going to be sent, and you can verify that in Active Campaign. You can verify that that customer is now actually subscribed to the list customer. So I'll do that for you now very quickly. Okay, so it should be in here. Katie Dickin. Of course, I just know she's going to be over here. You're going to search for her email address. So you can come back here, you can grab her email address out of here. Come up to Active Campaign, click Search, and it'll bring you here anyway. Okay, so she's in list customers. The reason she's been unsubscribed from the list customers is I have an automation set up to make sure she's not going to be duplicated. Okay, so as you can see here, she was subscribed to the list customers by API, which is what Zapier is. And then she was unsubscribed because we have an automation to make sure that people don't end up in the wrong lists. Okay, and that's my next part of this segmentation thing. Okay, so that part of it is relatively simple. Okay, someone becomes a customer, someone comes to the website, becomes a lead, they go to become a customer, they're going to move to the customer list. The problem is that they're now going to be in both lists, because Zapier doesn't remove people, it only adds people to a new list. Okay, so it updates the contact so that they're in both site leads and they're in UK customers, okay, or customers. So what you need to do then is so before I actually move on to that, you've also got your abandoned cart. So Subly has an inbuilt abandoned cart feature, and I think it's $29 a month, and that's also going to be the next step in the funnel where you're going to get the next bucket. Okay, so I'll show you here. So let's say someone goes all the way to the checkout and they enter their information here. Okay, so now that they've entered their email address on our Subly checkout, they're going to be captured as a lead in the abandoned cart. So if they get all the way to the end now and they decide that they're not going to continue, then they'll be captured by Subly. Okay, and Subly is going to email them 3 times over the next few days and basically send them back to the website to buy. Now the difference between leads and abandoned cart is, if someone goes to the website and enters their email address on a pop-up, yes, they're semi-interested. They've taken the interest to actually sign up, to go to your website, click your ad and sign up to your list, but they're not hyper interested. As interested as someone would be if they got all the way to this step and dropped off. So what might happen here is, oh, I don't have my wallet on me, I go into the kitchen and one of my kids knocks something over and I forget about the whole thing. Okay, and that's why the abandoned cart list, and I'll show you that in Subly here, the abandoned cart list is going to get different messaging. Okay, it's going to be much hotter emails like hot sale, go back over here, this is expiring now, and please head over and purchase this or whatever. Okay, so what you can do here is you can set up those emails here in Subly. There's the templates there. You click edit templates, and you can also capture those email addresses using Zapier. I won't cover that right now, but you can also capture those email addresses so that if you don't set up Zapier, essentially Subly will send them 3 emails and their email is vanished. Okay, whereas if you set it up with Zapier, Subly will send them the 3 emails and you can capture them in a separate list, which I recommend because you can keep them then for years. Okay, abandoned cart emails. Okay, so that's the second bucket. So the reason why you have 2 different ones is, as I said, people who've come to your website, enter their email address and left after looking at it for 10 seconds are semi-interested. You need to have different messaging for those people. You need to be talking about the benefits of the product, maybe handling any objections, and trying to convince them and persuade them to come back and buy. Whereas someone who's gone all the way to the cart and abandoned at the last second, they've probably already made the decision that they want to buy. So the messaging there is going to be, head back over here, a lot of urgency, maybe some scarcity, this is going away. And they're more likely to get to actually respond to those because they're already made a decision to buy. Okay, so this is the reason all this segmentation is taking place, is that you want to send different messaging to people based on where they are in their funnel, or if they become a customer, if they're not a customer, whatever. Okay, by the way guys, if you have any questions on this, then let me know. And by the way, I know email segmentation, what I'm talking about here is quite advanced. Okay, you might have thought I was going to show you something about segmenting your list in tiny different ways. This is actually the system that we use to automate the selling process for our subscription box. Okay, so essentially now what we got our leads, we've got our abandoned cart, and we've got our customer list as well. Okay, now the problem, as I mentioned, is they're going to be in both lists at the same time. So what you have to do, they're going to be in both cancelled and customers. Okay, so what you can do is you can come in here, you can create an automation. If you're not familiar with ActiveCampaign, essentially it's an email software very similar to MailChimp. In my opinion, it's a bit more powerful, a lot more powerful. And essentially you can make automations in here. Okay, and these automations can be triggered very similar to Zapier, triggered off different events. Okay, so we're going to have the trigger this time is going to be, so it's like add a start trigger here. The trigger is going to be if someone subscribes to the list. Okay, I'm going to choose the list customers. Okay, so basically, as we mentioned, if someone enters their email address on the front end of your website, it'll just be captured as a lead. Okay, but if they actually come along here and they become a customer, then Zapier is going to send them to the customer list. Okay, so we know that they're a customer if Zapier is sending them to the customer list. Okay, so all we have to do is say, hey ActiveCampaign, when someone joins the list customers, then unsubscribe them from the list site leads. Okay, so that way whoever goes to the list site leads will remain there. If they never become a customer, they'll stay in there, and the people who have become a customer will now be removed from they'll be added to the customer list by Zapier, and they'll be removed from the site leads list by ActiveCampaign. So you're going to get, there's no cross contamination. Leads are here, customers are here automatically. Once you set it up, it's done. You never have to worry about it again. Okay, now the final bucket is very similar, and it's going to be, instead of the trigger being so I'll start this again. Okay, let's go back to the start. So let's say someone has been signed up for 6 months. Okay, they love your box, but whatever, they decided to cancel. Okay, so how do we then move them out of the customers? Because we can't keep emailing people saying, maybe you want to email your customers about a delayed box, or you want to email them about a cool offer they have, okay, or an exclusive customer only discount, or whatever it is. Okay, if people have cancelled, then they shouldn't be getting those emails anymore, right? So what you want to do is you can set up another Zap that's triggered when a subscription is cancelled, and it's the same thing. Okay, so it'll test the trigger again. So now when a subscription is cancelled, we can actually tell ActiveCampaign to move people into a different list. Okay, and that list is going to be called cancelled. Okay, so it's very, very similar, but it's just about having these different buckets of people all in different lists. Okay, so let's say cancelled. Okay, so now what's going to happen is when a subscription is cancelled in Subly, then their email will be moved to the cancel list in ActiveCampaign. And you can trigger automations, by the way. So as I showed you here, you can trigger an automation, and Actually, I don't think you. I have a different window open. Let me just show you that the previous automation thing. I'll show you the two of them together, okay? But essentially, so yeah, you can trigger automations to send a series of emails to people when they've actually subscribed to a particular list. So you can say, hey, someone has just subscribed to the cancel list, maybe send them a survey, figure out why they cancelled, and actually see if we can win them back. Okay, so that's essentially how we do that, and that's it. Okay, so I showed you in a different window, but I forgot. I'm actually streaming here. You can't see my whole screen, so I'm going to show you this again. So when someone joins the list customers, you can essentially set an automation in ActiveCampaign. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to start this again. It's going to say add a trigger. Okay, so the trigger in here is when someone subscribes to a list, and the list is customers. So we know that they're a customer because Zapier has sent them into the customer list. Okay, so we know if someone has entered that list, then there's no need to have them in the site leads list anymore. Okay, so I'm going to delete this. It's going to say this is the trigger. And what's the action? Okay, the action is to go in here, go to contacts, click unsubscribe, and then select a list, and the list is site leads. Okay, so if they've joined the customer list, we know they've paid us because we set it up in Zapier, then we need to remove them from the site leads list. Okay, now what we also need to do is if they join the list cancelled, we also need to make sure that they stay in the correct list as well. So I'm going to add the trigger again. Subscribes to a list, cancel, which is going to be done by Zapier as I showed you here. Okay, and then you're going to click add start, and then it's going to be contacts, unsubscribe from one or more lists, and the list. So you want to unsubscribe them from the customer list, and also if you want, you can do like maybe site leads just in case as a fail safe. Essentially, you want to unsubscribe them from every other list so that you make sure that people only remain in one list at a time, because otherwise it just gets cross-contaminated and really confusing. Okay, so contact subscribes to the list, cancelled, then remove them, unsubscribe them from the list, site leads and customers. Okay, or just customers to make it clear. Okay, so essentially, whenever someone becomes a customer, they're going to be added to the customer list by Zapier. They're going to be removed from the leads list by ActiveCampaign. If they cancel a subscription, they're going to be moved to the cancel list by Zapier and then removed from the customer list by ActiveCampaign. Now you've got them all in separate places, and you can trigger different automations to email those people different messaging. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions, because I know this can get pretty confusing and pretty complex, but yeah, let me know if there's any questions on this at all, guys, because look, it is a bit complicated to set up. And Zapier, by the way, is free up until about 1,000 tasks per month, so you should be able to use Zapier to do this for you, no problem. But the difference is this is completely automated once it's done. So although it looks complex and difficult to set up, what you don't have to do then is move people between email lists like manually, or have Excel spreadsheets remembering when people have signed up and cancelled, and moving people around yourself. And you also don't have to worry about sending people the wrong emails and people emailing you back pissed off. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions on this at all, guys, because I know it's a little bit complicated, but it is quite valuable once you've actually got it set up. Okay, so so yeah, that's essentially how we segment our lists. Realistically, now we do further segmentation if we are doing broadcasts. Okay, I'm just going to delete this automation because I don't need it. So one more segmentation method we do, and by the way, we can do way more than this, right, is when we're sending a campaign. Let's just look at one I sent earlier. Okay, you can also set up tags, and we won't be covering it in this live today, but we can also set up tags in ActiveCampaign, and your tags can essentially mark people when they've been opening your emails or not. And we have a system set up where if someone doesn't open our emails for 60 days, they'll be marked as inactive. Okay, so basically what you want to do is, these are the lists you're going to be sending the email to, but one of the things you want to do, the conditions, is the tag does not exist inactive, so it's only emailing people who are not tagged inactive. And the reason being is that you want to make sure your deliverability is as high as possible, because if you keep emailing people who are not opening your emails, the email software is like Gmail and stuff like that can see that, and they'll start to mark your emails as spam. Okay, So it's really important that you don't email people who are not opening your emails. Okay, so that's essentially it for segmentation, guys. Like I said, I know this is a little bit complicated, but trust me, this is a serious time saver, and also, you know, removes a lot of stress from your head and worry from when you're sending your emails and your campaigns. But it also opens the opportunity, as I said, to automate your sales sequences, because if you know people are coming to the leads list, then you could have like a series of emails set up automatically to send. And then, by the way, I covered this in my course. We have an email system set up to automatically send them a series of emails to make them and persuade them to buy. If they become a customer at any point during that sequence, they'll automatically be removed from that sequence and move to the customer list, and they'll get a different sequence. It'll be a welcome series, getting them ready for their box, getting them excited before the box ever even ships, so that they love the product before they ever even get it. Okay? If they cancel the subscription, they'll be removed from the customer sequence and the customer list. They'll be sent surveys. Hey, why did you cancel? Why didn't you want to stay? Hey, please fill out the survey, and then we can try and win them back. Okay, based on what they said in the survey. Okay, and the abandoned cart as well, very similar to the leads one, but it's just going to get a different series of emails. Okay, they're going to get stronger, hotter sale emails, so that they're more likely to take action because we've assumed they're already ready to buy. So by knowing what these actions the customers have taken, we can send them the correct sales messaging and the correct messaging in general at the same time, at the right time. Okay, so that's essentially it for today's Email Scaling Secrets TV, guys. If anyone has any questions, then feel free to ask them now, or if you have a question on the replay, then drop it in the comments below. And other than that, I'll hang around for another minute or so. So if anyone's watching and has any questions at all, I'll be happy to help. And by the way, if you want me to help you map out your subscription box growth plan, feel free to book a free strategy call with me in the link below, and we'll basically have a discovery call, see what the problem is with your business, see where you're struggling, and we can put together a plan to help you achieve your goals as fast as possible. And obviously I have my program there to help you to actually achieve that goal, okay, and achieve that plan. So yeah, feel free to book a strategy call with me. Other than that, I will end this video here, and any questions that come up, I will respond to them in the comments. Thanks a lot, guys.